We're now onto the final stage, stage 22. And for this, we've only got to make one new part, the main rotor blade. And to do this, we're going to modify the large bush part. Let's find that part somewhere within the assembly and open it. And then let's go File, Save As. Let's choose Save as Copy and Open. And let's save this as large rotor blade. And you can then close your original part. If we look at the rotor blade part, on the right it's a large bush, and then there's sort of a pin area, and then there's the actual rotor blade. So we can keep this large bush part exactly as it is. We don't have to take anything away. We're just going to add some new features. First, let's start a sketch on the right plane. We'll go normal 2 and get the circle tool and draw a circle somewhere down here. So it should be the opposite end to where those scalloped cuts are. And then the diameter should be 7.4 millimeters. And there's also a smaller circle inside this one that's 4.8 millimeters. These should both be lined up vertically with the origin. And then for the position from the very end here to the outside of the circle is 15.6. And you can hold down Shift to dimension to the outside of that circle. So you should have 2 fully defined circles which are a little bit away from that existing body. We can then go Extruded Boss Base. Let's go mid-plane 7.8 millimeters. And that should insert a new body like this. And we can call that something like pinhole. We now need to join these 2 bodies together. So let's start a sketch on this face, on the first body. And then let's select that outer circle and press Convert Entities. So we should have a 7.4 millimeter circle in this new sketch. We can then just go Extruded Boss Base, and from the drop down, let's choose Up to Surface. And then let's select this surface. So you should join these 2 parts together, something like this. And we can call that feature Join. Next, before we start actually making the blade, let's cut out the small rim on the top of this pinhole. So start a sketch on this top face. Choose that inner circle and then just offset that 0.7. We can then do an extruded cut downwards 0.8. And you can call that feature something like rim cut. We now have that outer rim on one side and we also want it on the other side. So let's select that rim cut feature. Also select the plane that goes down the middle and then press mirror. And when the preview looks good, just press OK. So we have that rim cut on both sides. Now we can start to actually make the rotor blade shape. First up, we've got a bit of a root section that's a little bit wider than the main blade. To draw this, let's start a sketch on the right plane and go normal 2. First up, I'm going to select that outer circle of the pin area and press Convert Entities. So we now have that circle in this sketch. Then get the line tool and draw a profile something like this. From this outer point of the circle, I'm going to go directly down and then directly across. And then I'm going to go upwards and slightly right, so we've got a little bit of an angle, and we're going to join that circle. So we don't want to go up vertically, we want a little bit of an angle like this. And let's join on that circle somewhere around here, not at that widest point. We can now set some sizes. So let's set the total height here as 25 millimeters. The width across here should be 6.4. And then over here, let's just select the circle, also select the line, and just make those tangent. And that should fully define your sketch. And then just before we extrude, let's just round off these bottom corners. So I'm going to go to the Sketch tab, going to choose Sketch Fillet, and then set a size of 1 millimeter, and then just select those 2 bottom corners. We can now extrude this closed area. So let's go to Features, Extruded Boss Base, and I'm going to choose that area there, and then we'll do a mid-plane extrude 3 millimeters. So you should have something like this. It's like a really small section of the blade. And let's call that feature Blade Root. We can now draw the rest of the main blade. So let's start another sketch on the right plane. So firstly, again, let's zoom in and let's select this circular edge and press Convert. You can either select the full circle or just that bottom edge. I've just selected the bottom edge. And then I'm going to get the line tool, and from this left-hand corner, I'm going to go all the way down vertically to about there. And then I'm going to go in at an angle, and then I'm going to go horizontally across, and then vertically up to about here, and then into this angled line. And make sure you don't get the midpoint. We should be somewhere above it, about here. And then I'm going to go back into the right-hand point of that circle. So you should have a fully closed profile, something like this. Then let's set the size. So the total length here from the very end should be 63.2. This small end section here is 4.6. The length of this angled part is 11. And then going up to this corner from the very end here to this part should be 15.6 millimeters. The length here should be 4.5. And then finally, the total width of the blade should be 11.2. And that should fully define your sketch. I'm just going to rotate it around so it's a little bit clearer for you to see. We can then extrude this using a mid-plane extrude. So let's go to Features, and let's do a mid-plane 2mm. If you selected that full circle on the right-hand side, you might just now have to click in Selected Contours and choose that enclosed profile for the blade shape. But we should be extruding 2mm mid-plane. And you can then call that feature Blade. Now before we round this off, there's a slight edge on the back of the blade, sort of for the aerofoil shape, and we'll make this using a chamfer. First select the chamfer tool, it's underneath the fillet tool, and for the chamfer type we want to choose distance, not angle distance. Now if you're on a different version of SolidWorks, your interface here might look slightly different, but there should still be an option called distance. Let's select that one distance, and then down here at the bottom, instead of symmetric, we want asymmetric. This just means that we can make a chamfer that isn't symmetrical. Each side of the angled cut will be a different length. For those two different lengths, we want to put 0.4 as the first one, and then 5mm as the second one. And then let's select that trailing edge of the blade like this. Now you should get a preview like this. If yours doesn't work, or if it looks like it's the wrong way round, then try just flipping that 0.4 and that 5mm on the left. So try putting 5mm in the first box and 0.4 in the second one. And then let's also select this bottom edge. If you find that you can't select both edges, then you might need to add this feature as two separate chamfers, but it should work correctly like it does in this video. Then let's add those chamfers, and we've just added a slight sort of aerofoil shape to the back of the blade there. Then let's get the fillet tool and let's round off that chamfer. I'm going to add a very large fillet, 50mm, to this edge on the top and also the same edge on the bottom. Next we can round off some of the outer edges, so I'm going to get the fillet tool again. This time set 2mm, and let's choose 1, 2, 3 edges. Then on the corner at the front there's a bit of a larger one, so let's get the fillet tool again. This one is 20mm, and it's that front edge there. And then to finish off, let's get one final fillet. Let's set 0.5, and let's just add the front edge there, and you should select the entire way round automatically. Let's also do the same on the bottom. If you find that you don't select the entire loop, just make sure you've got the tangent propagation option selected on the left. And then press OK, and there we have our large rotor blade, and you can keep the color the same. In the next video, we'll add this to the final stage.